feel like I've talked about this player ad nauseum, and it is actually Brandon Ingram. I just talked about him 2 weeks ago with Sean Murphy, and like why a player of his stature makes sense for the Pistons, but we were kind of talking about like how if the Pistons wanted Ingram, they probably could have got him this summer if they really truly wanted him.
Yep.
And like we basically poached like half of the New Orleans Pelicans front office guys, coaches, and even their former GM. But this is a tweet from Brett Siegel over at Clutch Points, their NBA insider, saying league personnel are monitoring the Pistons closely leading up to the February 6th trade deadline as a team that could suddenly become buyers. Sources tell Clutch Points. Out of all the landing spots, Brandon Ingram, Detroit makes the most sense. So what do you think about a Brandon Ingram to the Detroit Pistons making the most sense if they are going to be buyers?
I mean, look, half that conversation is cap space, half the conversation is Trajan Langdon, probably, and just the Pistons' pretty obvious need for a scoring wing. The difference, it's like, here's the thing. Obviously, like Ingram would be better. Like if you can get Ingram and CJ for the same price, obviously you go Ingram.
Mm-hmm.
The conversation becomes like the cost to trade for him. You know, they're not just going to give him away. I know they haven't figured out an extension and such, but like he's still he's a younger player in his prime, essentially. 3-point volume has gone up this year, which is a selling point for the Pistons. But it's something where you're committing a lot of money to him if you trade for him. You're committing assets to get him. You're committing money to, extend him or re-sign him. So I think the idea of Ingram has definitely grown on me. But it's still, I mean, the volume has gone up. Like he's shooting, I mean, he's only played 18 games this year. I'm looking at this. He's shooting 37+% from three on over 6 attempts. Like, so the volume is definitely high. It's almost double than it's been in his career. And maybe working with Fred Vinson this past summer, before Trajan poached him, has something to do with that too. And that's something maybe to keep in mind. But he's not a seamless fit. Like he definitely, especially if you're planning on starting like Asar, Ingram, and Duran, you're running into maybe some spacing issues you ran into last season around Cade. So that's my concern. And I think he's definitely not my top choice. I think I would probably be excited if it happened. Just because, they finally take a swing for a player in their prime. But he's not my top choice. I think just because like guys like him and Levine are the only real big names that have been out there, I don't think that means that they should be our top targets.
Yeah, no, like when I was talking last week about this, because there was a report that what the Pelicans are looking for is expiring contracts, young prospects, and draft capital.
Right.
I think they can get one of those things.
I think they could probably get expiring plus one of the others.
Yeah. With him, I think what's so risky is the contracts.
Yeah.
The not getting an extension from the Pelicans. And I mean, like the Pelicans offered him, I thought it was a fair deal. Obviously he didn't feel that was a fair deal.
Yeah.
Like Utah was ready to bite the bullet, give them multiple draft picks, I guess, this summer, but Ingram was not willing to sign a long-term deal in Utah. He didn't want to go to Utah.
Right.
So it's like, okay, you don't want to play out west. You don't want to play with Lauri Markkanen and all the young fun guards that they have. I'm like, all right. There is a relationship with Trajan Langdon, obviously, coming from New Orleans, Michael Blackstone, Fred Vinson. So I think that's where the parallel comes from when national media talk about Brandon Ingram to the Detroit Pistons.
Right. It makes sense.
And it does help that the Pistons do have available cap space.
Yeah.
In an open roster spot. But here's my thing. Like, if you're the Pistons and, like, you're just soul set, like, we really want Brandon Ingram, I would not try to give up too much. Like, if you can really buy low on him and maybe just throw a couple seconds and expiring, I guess like pull the trigger if you feel like that's a move that can like really propel this team. But you made a great point, like Sar and Duran and BI, like
it's a weird fit.
Yeah, it's and like it could stunt the growth of Ron Holland, who it seems like every game he's getting better and better at finishing around the rim. His 3-point shot looks, much improved over the past couple of months.
Yeah.
But I don't really think that BI is like really in the Pistons like long-term plans personally. I think if you kind of look at it, they still want to have flexibility. And I think trading for a guy like BI goes against everything of what Trajan has kind of preached of like having flexibility, making sure we don't hard cap ourselves. Like the talent's there. He's young, can score at all 3 levels.
For sure.
But the health thing is scary. He hasn't really been the healthiest player throughout his career. I think he's only played 70 games a few times since he's been in the league.
Just once.
I don't think it makes a whole lot of sense if you're the Detroit Pistons. I know fans want that star. They want a secondary guy next to Cade to kind of help him out in crunch time situations. But I think the price for Brandon Ingram, one, it's going to cost you something, and then two, when you go into the offseason, are you going to max him out because he ditched Excel? He's with Rich Paul and Clutch Sports now, so it's going to get pricey.
Yeah, and you need to go into it like you got to be willing to max them out essentially. Otherwise, you just gave up assets for nothing. Yeah, no, I agree with you. It's a weird fit. Like I said, definitely not choice number one. I don't think it's like a horrendous fit. Like I said, like 3-point volume has been up. He's a 30. What's his career numbers? Let's see. Career he's shooting 36% from 3. On almost 4 attempts a game, and the volume has been trending upwards. Again, we got Fred Vincent on our team now. I don't know. I think another thing like you just mentioned, like the injury history, definitely a concern because you gotta spend assets to get him. You gotta spend money to keep him. He's not a seamless automatic fit, and the injury history is there. So I don't know. Like I said, if it happened, I would hype myself up about it. We're getting a young player in his prime, in a wing at that, a scoring wing. So, look, I don't think it would be the worst thing in the world, but it's definitely not a no-brainer, and I don't think I would pursue it personally.
Yeah, I mean, like I would be upset like if they went all in and like a big move and a splash. Like I'd probably be the first one up here saying like, let's go. Like,
right.
If you think that's the move, I'll trust in Trajan. Like if he feels that, Ingram can really help this team, propel out of like a 8-9 seed to a top 4, top 5 seed in the East, I'll support the decision and I'll just kind of see like what happens. But there's no guarantee if you trade for him, he's going to stay here. Like he could just say, nah, I'm good.
My guess is they would have some sort of assurance, and I would assume him and Trajan have some sort of a relationship. So yeah, I don't think they would trade for him unless they had assurances. I don't think anyone would at this point.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's why like Utah was like, okay, like if you don't want to play here, then we're not going to trade for you. But I know some people are saying like you have your bird rights. That doesn't mean anything. I mean, players can force their way out. I mean, look what Jimmy Butler's doing right now. Jimmy Butler's under contract. He's like, I don't want to be here. It does not matter.
Yeah.
If you have players' bird rights, like the fact that someone mentioned that actually kind of made me laugh. Like it does not matter, like whatsoever.